They thought she was just a cleaner until my daughter-in-law spoke those words. No one noticed the old woman when she entered the building. The glass doors slid open quietly, and she stepped inside as if she didn't want to disturb the air around her. The lobby was wide, elegant, and intimidating. Polished marble floors reflecting bright ceiling lights, tall glass walls, and framed awards lining the walls like trophies of success. Everyone there seemed important. Everyone except her. She walked slowly, her steps measured, almost careful. Her coat was simple, faded by time but clean. Her shoes were old, their soles slightly worn, yet neatly polished. Her gray hair was tied back into a small bun, revealing a face marked by years of experience rather than weakness. In her right hand, she carried a small brown handbag, old-fashioned, the kind people no longer used. In her eyes was something unusual. Calm. Not nervous. Not lost. Just calm. People passed by her without a second glance. A man in a sharp suit nearly bumped into her and muttered an apology without stopping. Two women near the elevator whispered to each other, briefly looking her up and down before turning away. In a building full of ambition and arrogance, the old woman was invisible. At the reception desk. The receptionist sat behind a large, glossy desk, her fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. She looked busy, stressed, important. When the old woman approached, the receptionist barely lifted her eyes. "Excuse me," the old woman said gently. Her voice was soft but steady, carrying a quiet confidence that didn't demand attention. The receptionist glanced up briefly, scanning her from head to toe. Something flickered across her face, confusion, maybe hesitation. "Yes?" she asked, her tone professional but distant. "I'm here to see someone," the old woman said. "I was told to come this morning." The receptionist opened her mouth to respond. But she never got the chance. The words that changed everything. "Don't talk to her." The voice came from the side. Sharp. Dismissive. The old woman turned slightly, following the sound. My daughter-in-law, Rachel, stood a few steps away. She was dressed impeccably, an expensive coat, designer heels, perfectly styled hair. Her phone was in her hand, and her expression showed irritation, as if this entire situation was an inconvenience. Rachel leaned toward the receptionist and whispered, but not quietly enough. "She's just the cleaner," she said. "They come in early. You can deal with her later." The words fell like stones. Heavy. Cold. Unforgiving. The receptionist froze. A man waiting behind Rachel shifted his weight uncomfortably. Another woman near the seating area pretended not to hear, suddenly very interested in her phone. The old woman heard every word. The silence that followed. For a moment, the entire lobby went silent. No one said anything. No one corrected Rachel. No one defended the old woman. The old woman didn't react the way Rachel expected. She didn't argue. She didn't look embarrassed. She didn't raise her voice. She simply stood there, holding her handbag, her expression calm, almost thoughtful. As if she had heard worse before. Rachel, satisfied, turned her attention back to her phone. To her, the matter was settled. People like the old woman didn't deserve explanations. Rachel had places to be. Meetings to attend. Important people waiting for her upstairs. At least, that's what she believed. Rachel's world. Rachel had always been confident. Too confident. She believed success was something you could wear, something visible in clothes, posture, and tone. She measured people by how they spoke, how they dressed, and how much space they occupied in a room. She had married into the family 5 years ago, and from the very beginning, she made sure everyone knew she belonged among the elite. She didn't notice kindness. She didn't value humility. And she had no patience for people who didn't look important. Especially old people. Especially poor ones. The old woman tries again. "I'm here for a meeting," the old woman said again, her voice just as calm as before. Rachel let out a small laugh and finally looked directly at her. "A meeting." Rachel repeated, amused. "This is a corporate office, not a charity." The receptionist looked uncertain now, caught between politeness and Rachel's authority. "Ma'am," she said carefully to the old woman, "do you have an appointment or a name I can check?" The old woman nodded. "Yes," she replied. "Ido." Rachel rolled her eyes. They always say that, she muttered. Tell her to wait in the service area. They. That single word stripped the old woman of her individuality. She wasn't a person anymore. She was a category, a life behind those eyes. What Rachel didn't know, what no one in that lobby knew, was that the old woman had once stood in places like this after midnight, holding a mop instead of a handbag. She had cleaned offices when others had gone home. She had scrubbed floors beneath desks belonging to men who would never learn her name. She had learned early in life how to survive without being acknowledged. Widowed young. Left with responsibilities heavier than her body. Forced to rebuild from nothing. She had learned patience. She had learned discipline. And she had learned that true power never announces itself. The elevator chimes. Just as Rachel turned away, the elevator chimed. The doors slid open smoothly. A tall man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere. Conversations stopped. The receptionist straightened. Even Rachel lifted her head slightly. The man scanned the lobby, and then his eyes stopped. They landed on the old woman. His expression changed instantly. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, walking toward her quickly. You're here. Rachel stiffened. The receptionist stood up so suddenly her chair rolled backward. Yes, the old woman replied warmly. Right on time. The man smiled respectfully. We've been waiting for you. Rachel felt her stomach drop. Waiting for her, she whispered. The shift. The lobby felt different now. Heavier. Quieter. Charged. The man turned to the receptionist. Please inform the board that Mrs. Whitmore has arrived. The receptionist nodded nervously. Of course. Right away. Rachel's heart began to pound. That name. Whitmore. She had heard it before. In meetings. In whispers. In stories of power and money. Eyes meet. The old woman slowly turned toward Rachel. Their eyes met. There was no anger in her gaze. No pride. Only awareness. Young lady, the old woman said softly, you should never decide someone's worth by how they look. Rachel opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The old woman turned back to the man. Shall we? She asked. He gestured toward the elevator. After you, ma'am. Cliffhanger ending, perfect stop for part 01. As the elevator doors closed behind the old woman, Rachel stood frozen in the middle of the lobby. Her confidence shaken. Her assumptions broken. One terrifying question echoed in her mind. Who was that woman? Really?